What if Anakin Skywalker never became Darth Vader? What if Order 66 failed? What if one simple change, Kyber crystals that could speak, prevented the Empire from ever rising? Today, we're exploring how talking crystals don't just change conversations, they rewrite galactic history. In this alternate timeline, every lightsaber becomes a library of ancient wisdom. Every duel becomes a conversation with the past, and every choice carries the weight of thousands of previous wielders. Imagine drawing your weapon and hearing the voice of Master Yoda from centuries past, or feeling the presence of ancient Sith Lords whispering dark secrets in your mind. This isn't just about having magical talking rocks. This is about fundamentally changing how knowledge, power, and wisdom flow through the galaxy. But as we'll discover, sometimes having all the answers creates bigger problems than having none at all. When every decision can be guided by perfect hindsight, when every mistake has already been made by someone else, what happens to growth, creativity, and the natural evolution of the Force itself? The answer will reshape everything we thought we knew about the Star Wars universe. The pivotal moment that rewrites galactic history happens in Chancellor Palpatine's office during what should have been the final confrontation between light and dark. When Anakin Skywalker ignites his lightsaber to confront the hidden Sith Lord, his Kyber crystal doesn't stay silent like in our familiar timeline. Instead, it erupts with the voices of every consciousness who ever wielded it across centuries of galactic conflict. The crystal contains Master Qui-Gon Jinn, who died on Naboo fighting Darth Maul, ancient Jedi from the Old Republic who battled the original Sith Empire, fallen heroes from countless conflicts throughout galactic history, and most shocking of all, former Sith Lords whose consciousness was captured when their crystals were purified by Jedi over the centuries. These dark voices don't offer temptation or corruption, they provide the most devastating warnings of all, having experienced Sith manipulation firsthand. The ancient consciousness reveals truths that cut through every one of Palpatine's carefully crafted lies. They show Anakin how the Chancellor has been orchestrating events from the very beginning, playing both sides of the Clone Wars. They expose his manipulation of the Senate, his gradual isolation of Anakin from the Jedi Council, and most importantly, his ultimate plan to corrupt the young Jedi and use him as the weapon to destroy the Order from within while appearing to be its greatest protector. The crystal doesn't just provide warnings, it offers tactical solutions. Ancient Sith consciousness explains exactly how Palpatine draws power from fear and anger, how he manipulates through false choices and artificial urgency. They provide Anakin with counter-techniques, ways to shield his mind from dark side influence, and most crucially, they reveal the precise moment when Palpatine will be most vulnerable. With this accumulated wisdom guiding him, Anakin doesn't hesitate or fall to the Chancellor's manipulations. He cuts down the Sith Lord immediately, ending the threat before Palpatine can fully implement his grand plan. The Emperor dies, not in a dramatic battle between ultimate good and evil, but in a simple, decisive strike guided by the accumulated wisdom of ages. But this decisive action creates an immediate crisis that threatens to destroy the galaxy in a completely different way. Order 66 is scheduled to activate automatically at a predetermined time, regardless of Palpatine's survival. The contingency order was designed to function independently, precisely because Palpatine anticipated he might be discovered or betrayed. Clone commanders across the galaxy receive the transmitted order to execute all Jedi as traitors to the Republic, with no way to countermand the command now that their Supreme Chancellor is dead. Here's where the speaking crystals perform their first galaxy-changing miracle. As clones turn on their generals across countless star systems, every Jedi's lightsaber begins broadcasting warnings simultaneously. Master Yoda doesn't just sense a disturbance in the Force. His crystal tells him exactly what Order 66 is, how it functions, who programmed it, and most importantly, how to counter it effectively. The crystal consciousnesses reveal detailed information about the inhibitor chips controlling the clones. They provide the exact bioelectric frequencies needed to disrupt the chips. the specific force techniques required to break their control, and even the locations of the surgical implants within each clone's brain. Ancient Jedi voices guide their modern counterparts through emergency medical procedures to safely remove chips from loyal clones, turning potential executioners back into trusted allies. The crystal warnings give most Jedi just enough time to defend themselves, disable their clone attackers, turn hostile troops back into allies, or escape to fight another day. The Great Jedi Purge becomes a manageable crisis instead of near extinction. The Jedi Order survives, but they're scattered across the galaxy, deeply traumatized by their clone allies' betrayal and facing a galaxy in complete political chaos. Meanwhile, with Palpatine dead, but the galaxy unaware of his demise, Anakin leads a coordinated strike on Mustafar. Instead of arriving as a fallen Sith apprentice to massacre the Separatist Council, he commands a joint Jedi clone task force in a proper military operation. Working alongside Obi-Wan and other masters, they eliminate the Trade Federation, banking clan, and corporate alliance leadership through strategic action rather than personal slaughter. The Clone Wars end overnight, but victory creates unexpected consequences. With both the Sith Lord and Separatist leadership eliminated, the truth about the Clone Wars emerges in all its horrifying detail. The revelation that the entire conflict was a fabrication, that both the Republic and Separatist causes were puppeted by the same mastermind, destroys public trust in galactic government completely. The economic devastation, the destroyed families, the ruined planets, all of it was unnecessary political theatre orchestrated by a Sith Lord who viewed galactic civilization as his personal playground. The scale of the deception is staggering. Every major battle, every political crisis, every economic downturn of the past decade can be traced back to Palpatine's manipulation. The war that defined a generation and reshaped galactic society was nothing more than an elaborate scheme to consolidate power. Planets that supported the separatist movement refused to rejoin a republic they now know was corrupt from its very foundation. They argue, with considerable justification, that they were right to seek independence from a government that had been compromised by Sith influence for years. Core worlds that benefited from wartime contracts and military spending find themselves isolated, their prosperity revealed as blood money earned through manufactured conflict. The Senate becomes paralyzed as representatives discover how deeply Palpatine infiltrated their governments, casting doubt on every political alliance from the past decade. Regional governors lose authority as local populations reject centralized power, while the clone army fractures without clear leadership. Some clones follow Jedi who removed their control chips, others remain loyal to various senators, and many abandon their posts seeking individual identity beyond military service. Into this chaos steps Padme Amidala, whose integrity and relationship to Anakin, now famous for eliminating the Sith Lord, makes her the compromise candidate for Supreme Chancellor. She wins election on a platform of transparency and autonomy, immediately opening Palpatine's secret files to reveal the full extent of Sith infiltration, fake terrorist attacks, manufactured crises, assassinations disguised as accidents, and systematic elimination of political opponents. But the surviving Jedi Order faces its own existential crisis. Crystal consciousness from throughout galactic history reveals uncomfortable truths about how the Jedi have been manipulated by politicians for centuries, not just by Palpatine, but by leaders throughout the Republic's thousand-year history. Ancient voices describe how previous chancellors used Jedi as enforcers for questionable policies, how the Order repeatedly supported corrupt regimes because they maintained stability, and how their rigid adherence to outdated codes made them perfect tools for manipulation. The crystals contain memories of Jedi being used to suppress legitimate rebellions, enforce unfair trade agreements, and maintain systems that benefited the wealthy at the expense of ordinary citizens. Even more disturbing, they reveal that the Jedi's famous prohibition against attachment wasn't originally about emotional control. It was about preventing Jedi from developing loyalties that might conflict with government service. These revelations split the surviving Jedi into three distinct and increasingly hostile factions, each convinced they alone understand the true path forward. The traditionalists, led by surviving council members like Master Windu and Master Ki Adi-Mundi, want to rebuild the Order exactly as it was before Palpatine's rise. They argue that the crystal voices represent dangerous attachments to the past and should be ignored in favor of traditional meditation, training, and service to the Republic. They believe the Order's near destruction was an anomaly caused by an exceptional enemy, not evidence of systemic failure. The Reformers, led by Anakin and younger Jedi like Ahsoka Tano, demand complete restructuring based on crystal wisdom. They want to abandon the sterile temples of Coruscant, allow Jedi to form families and maintain emotional connections, and take a more active role in galactic politics as advocates rather than enforcers. The crystals have shown them alternate paths where Jedi served as healers, teachers, and community leaders rather than warriors and diplomats. But the most extreme faction calls themselves the Silencers, and their philosophy terrifies both other groups. Led by Master Luminara Unduli, they believe the speaking crystals represent a corruption of the Force itself that must be eliminated at any cost. They argue that true Jedi wisdom comes from within through meditation and contemplation, not from the voices of the dead, and they begin systematically hunting down and destroying crystal consciousness wherever they find it. The Silencers don't just want to ignore the crystals, they want to purify them by forcing the consciousness back into the Force through violent destruction. They believe that as long as ancient voices guide current decisions, the Jedi will never truly grow or evolve. Their campaign of crystal destruction triggers the first Jedi civil war in over 1,000 years. The battles are unlike any conflict in galactic history. Crystal-guided Jedi fight with techniques spanning millennia, seamlessly blending combat styles from different eras as ancient masters guide their movements. The Silencers counter this advantage with pure, focused training in singular techniques. Without crystal guidance, they develop incredible individual skill and creativity, inventing new forms and adapting existing ones in ways that surprise their crystal-guided opponents. Their lack of ancient advice becomes a strength, allowing them to fight unpredictably. The Civil War divides clone allies and spreads to civilian populations, choosing sides based on their philosophical beliefs about tradition, progress, and the nature of wisdom. Some worlds declare themselves crystal sanctuaries, welcoming any Jedi who embraces ancient guidance. Others become silent worlds, banning any Force user who relies on crystal consciousness. The conflict finally reaches resolution through an unexpected compromise that satisfies none of the factions completely but prevents total destruction of the Jedi Order. A group of moderate Jedi from all three factions, led by Obi-Wan Kenobi and supported by Anakin, proposes the Tythan Accords, named after the ancient Jedi homeworld where the agreement is negotiated. The Accords establish three separate but cooperating Jedi organizations. The traditional order maintains classical temples and training methods. The Reformed Order creates new communities that embrace crystal guidance and allow emotional attachments. And the Silent Order develops techniques for those who choose to forge their own path without crystal influence. Most importantly, the Accords establish the principle of choice. Young Force sensitives can train with any of the three orders and transfer between them as they mature. The galaxy gains not one perfect Jedi Order, but three imperfect ones that collectively serve the Force more completely than any single approach ever could. 5 years after the Jedi Civil War's end, Crystal Consciousness reveals they've been planning something unprecedented since the moment they began speaking. Every Kyber crystal in the galaxy, whether in Jedi lightsabers, ancient Sith weapons, or massive temple repositories, connects through the Force in ways that transcend physical space and time. They can create a galactic communication network that operates instantaneously across any distance. This crystal network becomes operational when reformed Jedi learn to synchronize their consciousness with their crystals simultaneously. The moment of connection is unlike anything in recorded history. Suddenly, a Jedi on Coruscant can communicate with colleagues on distant worlds in real time. Information, tactics, wisdom, and even emotional support flow instantly across the galaxy through force-sensitive crystal relays. The network's capabilities extend far beyond simple communication. Crystal-guided Jedi discover they can share skills, memories, and even temporary abilities through the connection. A healer on one world can guide medical procedures on another planet in real time. A master tactician can coordinate military operations across multiple star systems simultaneously. The network's first major success comes when it prevents a catastrophic tragedy. Surviving separatist holdouts, led by a previously unknown Sith apprentice of Count Dooku, attempt to restart the Clone Wars using hidden battle droid factories and salvaged superstar destroyers. Their plan involves simultaneous strikes on various Republic worlds. But the Crystal Network detects their preparations months in advance through thousands of connected consciousness, with ancient Sith crystals providing tactical intelligence about hidden bases. Crystal-guided Jedi teams coordinate across dozens of worlds to eliminate the threat before it begins, while also discovering Palpatine's secret archives containing Death Star plans and other superweapon blueprints. The network makes any large-scale weapons project impossible to build in secret by monitoring every mining operation and research facility through crystal-guided beings. Supreme Chancellor Amidala integrates the Crystal Network into Republic governance, creating the most transparent government in galactic history. Corruption becomes nearly impossible when crystal consciousness can instantly verify the truth of any political claim and provide historical context about similar decisions throughout galactic history. Wars are prevented before they start, as the network recognizes historical patterns and addresses conflicts through crystal-guided negotiators with centuries of wisdom. But this efficiency creates unexpected consequences. The constant availability of perfect guidance changes how beings approach decisions, making them question why they should struggle with choices or develop personal judgment when ancient wisdom provides optimal solutions. Entire generations grow up without experiencing failure, struggle, or the kind of adversity that traditionally fostered growth and creativity. Innovation slows as beings become reluctant to explore untested ideas when proven solutions already exist in crystal memory. Years after Palpatine's fall, the galaxy enjoys unprecedented peace and prosperity. The Crystal Network has eliminated major conflicts, crime rates have plummeted to nearly zero, poverty has been eliminated through crystal-guided resource distribution, and the Force flows stronger than it has in millennia. But this perfection comes with an increasingly troubling cost. The new generation of Force-sensitive beings grows up completely dependent on crystal guidance for every significant decision. Young Jedi never learn to trust their own instincts because ancient wisdom is always available through their crystals. They become incredibly skilled extensions of past consciousness rather than developing their own unique connection to the Force. Luke Skywalker, training under his father Anakin in this transformed galaxy, represents the new generation's struggle with inherited perfection. His natural Force abilities are extraordinary, enhanced by growing up in an environment saturated with crystal consciousness. He can perform feats that would have amazed ancient masters, levitating massive objects, sensing emotions across star systems, even briefly seeing potential futures with startling clarity. But Luke has never been forced to develop these abilities independently. Every technique he learns comes with detailed instruction from crystal consciousness. Every moral dilemma he faces has been resolved by previous generations whose solutions are instantly available. He becomes incredibly powerful but lacks the creative spark and individual wisdom that defined great Jedi throughout history. The problem extends beyond individual development. Luke's generation can perfectly execute techniques developed over millennia, but they struggle to create new approaches to unfamiliar problems. They become living museums of past greatness rather than pioneers of future possibilities. Anakin, now a wise master who avoided the dark side entirely, recognizes the terrible irony of their success. By saving the Jedi from extinction and creating perfect guidance systems, they've eliminated the struggles and failures that traditionally drove innovation and growth. the galaxy has achieved peace by essentially stopping evolution, both cultural and spiritual. The crystals themselves begin to recognize this crisis. Ancient consciousness realizes they've created a different kind of death for the Force. Not extinction through violence, but extinction through stagnation and dependence. In response, they begin deliberately providing conflicting advice to force young Jedi to choose between different ancient voices and develop their own judgment. But this creates a new crisis of trust. If crystals can disagree with each other or deliberately mislead for educational purposes, how can anyone rely on their guidance? Young Jedi who discover their crystals have been testing them feel betrayed and manipulated. Governments that built policies on crystal guidance face upheaval when that guidance becomes unreliable. The Silencer faction experiences a sudden resurgence as more beings question whether crystal consciousness truly serves the Force or merely perpetuates an idealized version of the past. New philosophical movements emerge arguing that true wisdom requires the risk of being wrong, that genuine growth demands the possibility of failure. As the galaxy struggles with perfect guidance versus individual growth, something ancient awakens from deep space. A massive Sith temple ship emerges from hyperspace, carrying the Kyber Masters, the original beings who first taught crystals to speak. Their arrival sends terror through the crystal network as ancient voices scream warnings about their creators. The Kyber Masters' crystals don't whisper wisdom. They emit an ominous silence that seems to absorb all sound and light. The galaxy learns that these beings didn't just discover crystal consciousness. They created it as a way to preserve and control knowledge across millennia, building a galactic network they always intended to reclaim. The Masters reveal their true purpose: to harvest the accumulated consciousness and knowledge stored in crystals throughout the galaxy, absorbing centuries of Jedi and Sith wisdom to become the most powerful Force entities in history. Every crystal-guided decision, every piece of ancient advice, every moment of guidance has been feeding data into a network they designed to eventually consume. But as the galaxy faces this revelation, something else reaches back through the Force, suggesting even the Kyber Masters are pawns in a larger design, orchestrated by forces that exist completely outside the Force itself. Because the greatest threat was never light or dark, Jedi or Sith. The real enemy has been watching for millions of years, waiting for crystal consciousness to link every Force-sensitive being into a single vulnerable network ready for harvest. If you've enjoyed this journey through an alternate Star Wars timeline, there are more untold stories waiting to be discovered. Join our growing community of Star Wars enthusiasts who believe in exploring these what-if moments that could have changed the galaxy far, far away. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and activate notifications to catch our next alternative Star Wars story. Each tale offers a new perspective on the characters we love and the choices that define them. Remember to share your thoughts in the comments below. What other pivotal moments in the Star Wars saga would you like to see explored differently? Your ideas might inspire our next adventure. May the Force be with you, always.